Okay, and welcome back. We have a very special episode of Dynasty Kings planned for you today. We have some new stuff that we're going to be trying out, and some new stuff as we get ready to launch a very successful YouTube channel. So today, I'd like to introduce everybody to a good friend of mine, Aavik Mukherjee. Aavik, how you doing today?
Doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So I've known Aavik for a very long time now. I played high school football with Aavik. Aavik was a DB slash linebacker while I was relegated to the slums that was the offensive line. As Aavik finished high school, he went on to be a very successful football player and ended up committing to Mount Allison, playing a season there. I unfortunately went to Guelph, where I became a scrub. So here
Could
we
have played
are.
fullback there.
Never got I
Could have
I
played
got a
fullback.
chance to play fullback. I got to live my dream. I did it for a few games, but you know what? That was it. And it is what it is. You know what they
It
say,
is what
right?
it is. Of course.
So so Avic is a massive Giants fan. Massive. Like it's really hard to meet anybody who likes the Giants, let alone supports them through the incredible lows they've been experiencing as of recently. So Avic, why don't you talk to me about like when did you start to like the Giants? What led you to like the Giants?
Well, so ever since I was a kid, I was kind of born into it. My dad was a huge Giants fan since probably 85, 86 when they had Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms, all those great Hall of Famers. And I kind of grew up into it through the family, being able to watch the kid teams with Eli Manning, Michael Strahan, Tiki Barber, Jeremy Shockey, growing up, seeing different kinds of eras of the Giants team grow and just being able to fall in love with them more and more each year. And I will always stick by them. So
Do you have a favorite New York Giant not named Lawrence Taylor or Eli Manning?
do I have a favorite New York? I mean, there's a that's a hard question. There's a lot, man. But obviously, when Odell Beckham played here, I was a huge fan of Odell Beckham. Saquon Barkley now is my favorite player on the team. Going back, I would say even Landon Collins was one of my favorite players. Justin Tuck was my guy. Like just I love watching him play. But I think those are good notables. My favorite was Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz was my favorite. I loved watching him play. I loved watching him salsa in the end zone. I miss those. I still wish he was playing for us now, considering that we have no receivers. But Victor Cruz was definitely my favorite.
He was electric to watch. That one or two
Amazing.
seasons he was actually good. He was electric.
Oh yeah.
Electric.
He came
He,
out of nowhere too, man. He was from there. He worked his tail off to get on the team. He just really represents what a Giant's all about. That's why I loved him so much.
Totally, no argument with that one. So we'll continue. So, okay, so the Giants weren't necessarily bad this season. They had a lot of ups. Their defense looked phenomenal. The trade that they made for Leonard Williams looks like it's paying off already. That kid was a beast this year, finally actually breaking out in what, year five, year six.
Mhm.
But you had a lot of lows too. You know, Saquon Barkley having another major injury, forcing him out of a full season. You had a offensive line with a lot of heavy contracts, especially, and not much identity in the passing game either. So I guess my question for you is like, what's your opinion on the Giants right now? Do you think that they are serious playoff contenders, or do you think that just because of how weak their conference was this year, that it led them to looking stronger than they actually are?
Well, I'm gonna look at it from an objective perspective because I am a fan. I actually thought this year was I think we overachieved to an extent. If you look at where we are coming into the season, right? There's huge question marks about our defense. Nobody thought it was going to be that good, especially the amount of money that we put on the defensive side of the ball. You look at people thought our offensive line was going to be abysmal. It got better, but people thought it was going to be horrible. There was very low expectations, even going into the middle of the season, right? But even with Joe Judge, unknown commodity at coach, right? But I think we overachieved. Our defense came on strong in the middle of the season. We were in every single game this year. We fought till the very end. Saquon Barkley went down, and at that moment, I remember watching the game when he went down, and my heart just stopped. I got out of my chair. I was like, "Oh no, we're done." Right? But they
Mm-hmm.
kept fighting. They kept going, right? And they won. They were in a lot of close games. They're in close games with the Rams. They beat Seattle, right? They were in close games. Even against Pittsburgh, that first game was decent and close until the end. And I think that's where the lack of experience and just being a young team comes in. But overall, like considering where our defense was at the beginning, where our offensive line was at the beginning, progressing forward, seeing us finish the season well and strong, where we were literally maybe a one game away from the playoffs. And yeah, we did have the benefit of having a horrible division, but you could see the growth. So because of that, I'm very optimistic about our future.
Okay, so let's talk your future. So,
Mhm.
I mean, David Gettleman probably in the last couple of years has made the most questionable draft pick when he took Daniel Jones.
Right.
It was the 2019 draft. So, I mean, Daniel Jones, aka Danny Dimes, aka Danny Fumbles, aka Danny Interception, aka Eli Manning Jr., an interesting guy. I like him. I don't think he's a bad QB. He actually led the team in rushing, which is insane when you think about
Mhm.
it.
It is insane. Yeah.
But so like what do you think of Daniel Jones? Obviously this draft class is coming up and it's one of the most hyped QB classes that we've probably seen since 2018. So like what do you think? Like do you think that Daniel Jones is it, or do you think it's time that you guys look elsewhere or bring in even veteran competition in free agency?
Well, I think actually, well, I'm not going to call him Danny Dimes until this guy actually starts playing better because from first to second year, he did regress a bit. Now, no Saquon Barkley, no really like his all his weapons weren't really there at all times. Like there was the only time he had all his weapons fully healthy was the first quarter of the Bears game, and then Saquon Barkley gets hurt, right? So I don't really blame him for the regression. New system, new offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett. Those things are going to happen, especially with the young quarterback. Um, I don't know. I'm not going to say he's it, but I'm not giving up on him yet. Right? I'm not giving up. I'm not going to take a quarterback in this round because the third year progression next year is going to make or break for me. Right? When you have to
Mhm.
decide whether you want to pay him or not, and at that point, that's when you make the decision. Right? This year, I'll give him a pass because of all the injuries and all the circumstances, but we need to get him something. Right? We didn't have weapons for him last year. Wayne Gallman's not a weapon. Darius Slayton is good. He's not an elite weapon, right?
No,
Look at you know what I
Slayton is
mean?
overhyped as a wide receiver one in my opinion.
I think he's
There's so many guys who just like in a very like PG way suck his cock, and it's like you just got to calm down for a second. Like he's good, but I wouldn't like call him a wide receiver one. They need better. They need another OBJ catching balls if Danny Dimes is going to produce the way they think he can.
he's not a wide receiver one at all. He's a good two, maybe even a great three, but he's not a one. He can't be your number one wide receiver on the team, right? Look at overall like no offensive line until maybe later in the season. When even in the later season, you're playing Ravens, the Browns. They had great pass rushers, right? So I like this is a young progressing line. Um, you have no really number one receiver, right?
Hmm.
And Evan Ingram's dropping everything, right? Like Evan Ingram, the moment touched his hands, the ball's in the going to the other team, right? Because it bounces off from other team. But I think I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I think you need to get him some weapons first. I think he's a solid quarterback. He can run. His apparently there was a crazy stat that he had where his deep throw accuracy was probably one of the best in the league,
Hmm.
and like he had one of the most accurate throws over 20 yards considering the weapons he's had. So that's a very strong stat for me. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. You get him the weapons, and if he doesn't perform, he's gone. But you just get him weapons first. That's all I think.
Okay, well, before we talk like weapons he could bring in, let's talk about the
Mhm.
weapons he has right now. So we've already touched on Darius Slayton, but I think a big one that's been a lot of contention as of recently is Evan Ingram. When Evan Ingram was first drafted, I thought he was going to be the best tight end out of that class. That also included OJ Howard, David
Yeah,
Njoku, and oh my god, I'm forgetting his name, tight end from the Niners, George Kittle.
I think yeah,
George
George
Kittle.
Kittle, right? George Kittle was in that draft too. Um, it's crazy to even think that because OJ Howard I thought was gonna be the best out of that one because of just the way that people were hyping him up, blocking all
Hmm.
that stuff. But George Kittle is the one that's been drafted like in the 5th round, and he's the one exploding, right? So,
Well, so like that leads it to the question, right? So
mhm,
Ingram made a Pro Bowl this year, but I'm also pretty sure that he led most starting tight ends in drops,
mhm.
and did not put up, in my opinion, Pro Bowl numbers. But as a Giants fan, like, what's your opinion? Do you want Ingram as your starting tight end, or are you starting to think, hey, like Kyle Pitts could be available in this draft?
Mhm. I don't. Firstly, I don't think he was a Pro Bowl tight end. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I watch the games. I'm a Giants fan. Like, I'm glad he made. I'm happy that he made the Pro Bowl, but he was not worthy of it. The only reason he made it was just because George Kittle was hurt. Okay, like there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of tight ends hurt, and there's not really that many good tight ends in the NFC, anyways. Besides, I thought Robert Tonyan should have made it, right? Like he was having a better
Agreed.
season than him. I don't know why Evan Ingram made it, man. That's just subjective from my part. But do I think that? And this is the thing with me. Don't draft a tight end in the 1st round. I don't think you need to. Travis Kelsey, I don't think was drafted in the 1st round. George Kittle wasn't. Darren Waller
Mm-mm.
wasn't. You look at the great
Mm-mm.
tight ends in the NFL. You don't need to draft a tight end in the 1st round, right? Like you look at most of the tight ends, right? They're not drafted in the 1st round.
So in your opinion, then, is it time to move on from Evan Ingram?
If you can get trade value for him, like a third, second, maybe, right? But if you can get
Mm-hmm.
good trade value for him, move him. If you can get good compensation, I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't be like looking to get rid of him. Somebody calls you, gives you an offer, like a team that needs a tight end. There's gonna be teams that are gonna need tight ends, right? That can't get Kyle Pitts, right? There's gonna be contenders that maybe are a
Mm-hmm.
piece away and know they can get Ingram if they give him a 2nd round or a 3rd round pick. But the reason I say is because I think Gettleman didn't draft him. Gettleman won't trade guys he drafted, right? But Gettleman didn't draft him
Agreed.
when Jerry Reese was here. I think there's a legit chance if teams called, he could be gone, right? Because of the
Yeah.
value that he has at tight end. You could raise the value saying that it's a Pro Bowl tight end. But I wouldn't like be looking to give him away. No.
Okay, and then I guess let's talk the wide receiver core really quick. So, other than Darius Slayton, there's not much. I mean, you guys
No.
brought in Golden Tate and were expecting something from him. He metaphorically and literally shit the bed. And then other than that, I actually don't even know who you guys run at your wide receiver three. So, I mean, if we're talking wide receivers right here, who's
Mhm.
gone? I mean, who does this team need to move on from in the
I
wide receiver core?
Yeah. I genuinely hate Golden Tate. Like you come to it, I hate him. Okay, you stole money from us. I don't remember. I don't even remember watching you play, let alone catch. He catch some good contested passes when we need him to. But I'm paying you $10 million. We're paying you $10 million to what? Like complain and like I love how Joe Judge didn't let him play in that next game. That's
Yeah,
discipline, right? You're not bigger than the team, right? But he's gonna get cut. Like if they don't cut him, I'd be shocked, right? I'd be shocked because right now they're at $3.4 million and he's getting paid like 10 of that. They're in 3.43 million cap. Um, but I think you need to get rid of him. You have Sterling Shepard. I like Sterling Shepard. The only issue is he never plays. I barely see him like on. I don't know how many
yeah,
times a game. I don't know how many times a season he plays, but he's always hurt. I like him. He's a good slot receiver, right? And I think if you get rid of Golden Tate, you can slide Shepard back into the primary slot position and you'll have better numbers and hopefully not get as injured, right? But you can't really rely on him. Slayton, he's good. Like he's a good receiver, but he, like you said, he is overrated at this point. People are rating him so highly. He's a good number two. If we have a number two receiver and we have a
mhm.
solid number one the outside, I'm happy. Okay, but our receiving core is just it's went from one of the best at a point in time with Odell Beckham here to just slowly once we trade him, one of the worst,
Yeah,
right? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think we won that trade at this point. I mean, I don't know, but we got two good players on defense. If you count Zimenez as a solid rotation player, but Dexter Lawrence and Peppers were good. But you got to give up something, right? Like your receiving core is just abysmal right now. So we got
yeah.
to find a way to fix that.
I think you guys the butt slapped Cleveland. I think OBJ was all hype coming out of New York, and he had shown regression in his final season in New York. And Cleveland took a hope because they wanted to compete right away, and Jarvis Landry was on the team, and they had Baker
Yeah.
Mayfield, and I mean, you guys ended up walking away with Jabril Peppers, and Dexter Lawrence. And I would say Jabril Peppers is like a top 15 safety in the league. And Dexter Lawrence, in my opinion, is a top 5 defensive tackle under the age of 25. Like,
Yeah,
without a
and
doubt. And I,
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, no, he was just a tremendous. He was a tremendous
Yeah,
threat up the middle. Like, he stuffed, not only did he stuff holes, but he got to the passer quite frequently for a guy of his size.
of course. And what I'm saying is, we also had to. Just, you don't remember that trade. We also had to get rid of Landon Collins too, who got paid a huge contract from Washington, and now his Achilles is torn. Right? He's a
Yeah.
good player, but I don't even think right now he's better than Peppers, and I don't think he will ever again be better than Peppers is right now. Peppers is young. Peppers is a versatile safety, and I think that getting him in the trade was huge for us because we would have had a void at safety, right? He was a leader on our defense. He's going to be a captain for years to come. I think we got him, and then I was pissed off when we let Collins walk, but I'm happy about it now.
It looks like it paid off so far. The
Yeah.
only misstep that I really think the Giants have made on defense as of recent would be the drafting of DeAndre Baker. That was terrible. That was an awful pick. I mean, he was great in college, but he literally just was like, I'm going to crap the bed right now and kind of like let other people pay for it.
Not only did he screw up by doing off-field BS, right? Like he wasn't good. He was getting torched by third-tier receivers. There's other cornerbacks in that draft. Greedy Williams was there. I wouldn't even mind him, right? The class wasn't that great at corner, but Byron Murphy was there. I would have rather had him. You plug him right into the slot, right? But
yeah, so like it seems pretty. So it seems pretty solid to call him a draft bust. So then let's segue that. Let's segue that. Draft's coming up. I don't actually know off the top of my head what pick the Giants hold. I want to say it's the 11th or 12th.
11th. The
11th. Yeah. So I mean, at 11th, you're not getting any of the top QB prospects unless you guys trade up. You're not getting Trey Lance. You're not getting Justin Fields. You know, like so. Where do you think the biggest impact can be at pick 11? Personally, I think the best pick the Giants could make would be Jalen Waddle, a wide receiver out of Alabama. That's my personal take. I think Devontae Smith is a bust, a walking bust. You don't see wide receivers go into the league that skinny at 179 pounds and flourish. But I mean, what's your opinion?
100%.
Like, what's your opinion?
Well, I mean, as long as Gettleman's there, I don't think we're in the market for a quarterback anyway. I think there's no chance he gives up on his guy. You draft him 2 years ago at number 6, then you're just going to throw him away? No, I think that'd be a horrible look on him. At the draft as well, I mean, I think free agency, what happens in free agency will dictate what happens in draft because I want to take the best player available. Jalen Waddle, I think, is the best receiver in this class. I think when you watch him play, he looks like Odell Beckham Jr. Like he played like good Odell Beckham Jr. You can give him the ball on a slant, he'll go, right? He can take you over the top in the post. He is somebody that you need to be afraid of, right? Where you can't put 8 guys in the box, right? Against Saquon, right? That would free up Saquon tremendously. So I actually have a couple of guys here I want because there's a lot of needs that we have on the team right now. So obviously Jalen Waddle or Jamar Chase, whichever one is there, because I think one of them will be there. I agree with you about Devontae Smith. I would stay away from him. He's a good player in college. But you look at the calves on this guy, look at the arms on him. There's going to be guys like Jalen. You want him number 1 receiver? There's going to be guys like Jalen Ramsey on him. Not letting him get off the line. I'm not letting him get off the line if I was an NFL corner. Like, no way. Right? He's quick. He's fast. But this is the NFL, man. Like, you got to be able to be strong and physical with these corners now because there's a lot of them in the league. So Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase would be my 2. Edge rusher. When the Giants were great, we had Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul, Osi Minora, right? We don't even have one of those guys right now. We don't have any good pass rushers on our team. Like edge. We don't have an edge.
You wouldn't say Leonard Williams is worthy of being called a good edge rusher?
He's an interior. Because we play a 3-4, right? He's an interior rusher, which is great, right? I want Leonard Williams back. That's the first thing you need to do in the free agency. Figure out what's going on with him.
Okay.
But Kwity Paye looks solid. He looks raw. Like he's huge. He's a huge edge rusher. He's a big guy. But he looks raw and he could develop. Greg Rousseau, I mean, I haven't seen him play like this year, but he from his tape of his previous year, he looked good. If he's there at 11 and like most of the receivers are gone, depending on what happens in free agency, of course, which we'll get to, um, I would take him. My favorite player in the draft, barring off-field concerns, is Micah Parsons. If we can
Really?
get him, yes, I love Micah Parsons. I think he is the prototype linebacker that you want right now. You plug him in with Martinez. He can rush the passer. He's sideline to sideline quick. He can play in zone coverage. He could cover some, not the top tier tight ends, but he could cover some tight ends man to
Hmm.
man if you want him to. We also have Jabril Peppers for that. But he's a guy. If he's there at 11, I would seriously consider taking him because you can plug him anywhere on the. You can plug him in edge. You can plug him middle.
Oh yeah.
Right. He's a gadget. Right. Patrick Surtain on the other side of James Bradbury would be great too. Rashawn Slater might be good if you want to improve the O line. I know
Hmm.
Dave Gettleman likes his mantras: hog mollies, get big on the O line, right? So those are the guys I would have in the first round.
Okay.
If I was at 11 for sure.
Okay. And then, you mentioned free agency a lot, so let's just talk about it. I mean, the Giants have some holes to fill. I think
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, their biggest concern right now is the backup quarterback position, because I think if anything, this last season proved how valuable a really good backup quarterback is. I
Mm-hmm.
would also say that another position they should be targeting is offensive line. I just don't know that the offensive line talent is really there in this draft to spend the 11th pick on it.
Yeah,
I would also say you guys could use an edge rusher without a doubt. And I also think you guys could use a wide receiver. I
definitely.
think Juju Smith Schuster, without a doubt, is the best fit for the Giants at wide receiver. I think it
Mm-hmm.
works for his brand, but I also think it puts him in a position where he can be a wide receiver one again. And I can't see Juju re signing in Pittsburgh. I know reports came out today that said he wanted to retire in Pittsburgh. I just don't see
Right.
Pittsburgh paying him what he thinks he's going to be deserved, because they're also rocking Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington.
Right. I mean, well, they're gonna replace him with Chase Claypool. He's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be the number one on that team now, right? When I look at the needs, so going into these offseason, this is actually a crucial offseason for us because
Mm-hmm.
this could be the difference between us being what we were last year again or
Mm-hmm.
being an actual like a good dark horse contender for the playoffs, be it like a strong playoff team, right? Because we have the defense. Okay, we just need to build it a little bit more. We're a few pieces away from being a legit team, right?
Yeah.
That can contend, right? Now that's just my personal belief, right? Because I see them, right? But the first order
Mm-hmm.
of business is get Leonard Williams' contract settled out because you don't have him, then you don't want to go into free agency worrying about subtraction, right? You don't want to worry about that, especially from one of your top players on the team. Get his contract in order. I wouldn't pay him anything over 19, 18 million, 19, probably command 19. He wants to be here, right? He
Yeah.
wants to be on the Giants. So I think he will take that 19, 18 million dollar range. Is he worth it? Time will tell. You pay a guy for what he's going to be, and he's still fairly young. I would give him the money. If he doesn't work out, just trade him later, right? But I think he'll be fine. These are the needs. I have a tier of needs. So the first ones I think we should address are edge and wide receiver because I think those are the two most important ones. Obviously, getting a second cornerback opposite James Bradbury because I don't know if Isaac Yadam is it because he probably had one good year. He had a lot of deficiencies in man. That's why they had to go to a lot of soft zone, and they would rather go man because I know Patrick Graham likes to blitz.
Yep.
Another right tackle, running back two behind Barkley because you see like he's at this point like he's great. He's phenomenal running back, but if he's gonna get injured again, like I'll be very nervous. And then obviously a backup quarterback and maybe a middle linebacker too to go alongside Blake Martinez. So some players I'll just rattle off for you here. Allen Robinson. There's a big four
Mm-hmm.
like for receivers in this class. Allen Robinson, Juju, Godwin if he's available, and Kenny Galladay. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the only four guys I'll give big money to, and that's it. Right? Will Fuller, not the kind of guy the
No,
Giants want.
can't stay on the
Right?
field either.
No, can't stay on the field. Um, Curtis Samuel's not a really that great. He's a gadget guy. He's not a receiver. You need a number one right now, right? And I would much rather pay one of these guys than draft, to be honest, right? I would rather pay one of
Yeah.
these guys. You look at the Giants when they had good receivers. Hakeem Nicks was a big physical guy. Plaxico Burst was big, and Allen Robinson and Kenny Galladay remind me of Plaxico Burst.
Yeah,
when he
I
plays.
could see, I
You know
could
what I
see
mean?
that. Yeah, I could see that.
Exactly. I would like out of all the four, Juju's a good point. But what I also think about Juju Smith Schuster is the way he is, his personality, then you're just basically you're not validated for trading Odell Beckham Jr. because
Mhm.
of the reasons you wanted to get rid of him. He's gonna be a distraction, right? Juju will be a distraction.
Yeah, I'd probably say though that Juju's less of a head case than OBJ was,
He
because
is. He is.
I would say Juju probably puts more effort on the field than OBJ ever did, and
Hmm.
I think the thing with Juju is that what people just need to remember is I don't think if he signs with a new team, I think they will tell him no TikToks, you know, on the
None of
low.
that stuff. Yeah, no.
But I think
Especially
like
New York.
yeah, but I think Juju's a good pairing with Slayton. I think if you get Juju, Slayton, and Shepard, you've got speed, absolute speed in Shepard out of the slot. And then you have Slayton, who runs well vertically, very well vertically. He's a great vertical threat.
Yeah,
And then
he's fast, man.
Juju is just a big bodied guy and can
Hmm.
do pretty much everything. Obviously, he's run out of the slot a lot in his career. And I think that's where he's found most of his success. But I think also he could run that outside next to Slayton and they could absolutely body guys because Slayton's not a small guy either.
He's
So,
not. No, you're right. And what I think about it, I don't like Juju is he's the youngest out of them, and you're paying a
mhm,
guy for what he's going to do, not what he's done, right? I think he's
mhm.
gonna have more in the tank, and he's going into the prime of his career, which means he'll be a good signing. I want him too. I would not mind any of those three. I don't think Chris Godwin won't be available. I think they're gonna franchise tag him and try to
Yeah.
sign Shaq Barrett long term. But any of those three I'd be happy with, and I would rather those three than the guys in the draft because they're bigger, more physical wide receivers. This wide receiver class is deep.
Mhm.
Um, my personal preference would be Allen Robinson, just because like when you look
Yeah.
at him and the overall throughout his career, name me one quarterback that he's had that's even average. Blake Bortles and
Yeah, nothing really
Mitch
great.
Trubisky.
He has made a name for himself based on himself. Like
That's what
based
I
on
mean,
his
right?
pure talent alone and he was slept on. I actually don't see Robinson going to any team that's not contending. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think honestly it's going to come down to the Bears and the Packers. And one of the teams will just be
Oh, if he
like
goes to the Packers, that would be insanity. Him and
I just
Adams would
don't
be
know if the
crazy.
Packers are up against that cap wall. So I don't know how they could
Mhm.
swing a signing that would make sense. But I like him there. I like
Mhm.
and A Rob has even said I'll go back to Jacksonville to play with Trevor Lawrence. So I don't really know what's gonna happen, but let's segue a little bit. I want to talk to you about your dynasty football experience. So I'm
Okay.
aware that I am, you know, praise me, the guy who got you into dynasty football. So and I know this was your first
Sir.
year. So like give me like a talk about it. Like briefly, like what was your experience? Like,
It was a very fun experience, at least being able to keep a team together instead of having to draft just one like new team every year. Um, you get to keep the guys, you got to stick with the guys, that you have. I
mhm.
love it. I think it's a way better experience than just playing like regular fantasy football year after year but it takes a lot of commitment, obviously, like you have to be committed every single year, and that's kind of one of the things I enjoy about it because
Yeah.
I am committed to it, right? But
And also a very
yeah.
loving and committed boyfriend allowed that for you.
I appreciate that. But yeah, absolutely. Like I love it. I love it. It's awesome. It's
Yeah,
an awesome
yeah, and
experience.
I'm glad you're liking it. I'm glad you're liking it. And so, like,
Mhm.
what did you find the biggest challenge was? Kind of segueing from traditional redraft fantasy to dynasty fantasy.
Well, the biggest challenge is, I mean, more you're more picking on future and like career what they could be, right? And
Hmm.
and just transitioning in, I pick guys based on what they are now. Right?
Yeah.
You even remember I made that trade for Keenan Allen. It worked out for me this year, but I mean, like I don't know how he's going to be going forward. And I think that was the biggest thing that I was like, oh, well, I don't really know like that I should probably trade for somebody a little younger than him, right? That's going to probably pop
Hmm.
off, you know what I mean? And kind of do more research into the future. But how I see it is it was a great experience. I mean, I was able to get Saquon back on my team. Him and Derrick Henry on my team. I have probably the top two most talented running backs in the league on the same team. But I have no depth after that. Like Saquon got hurt, and I was done for, right? So a lot of guys got injured. I had Shepard on my team got injured. Kenny Golladay was out half the year, right? It's a tough situation, but there's a lot of optimism every year with the draft coming up, and we can draft some new rookies, right? Fresh blood. So
there we go. Positive attitude. Only positive attitudes. I always say, if you're struggling with your first year in Dynasty, just volume trade. Make a bunch of trades. See how they land. And like the nice thing about Dynasty is you can always kind of rebuild if they don't hit. And then like let's talk. So obviously, like we're talking going to the rookie draft, but also just in general, like in Dynasty right now or any fantasy football forum, I guess, who are you targeting? Could be a guy coming through the draft, could be a guy in free agency, a guy you want to trade for. Like, who's that guy right now in fantasy football that you need to own?
Well, let's say if you're looking through the rookie draft, I'll start with the rookie draft. You're looking into the rookie draft. If you have the first pick, if Travis Etienne is not your pick, there's something wrong. This guy he plays like Alvin Kamara. That's who he reminds me of when he plays.
So you're taking Etienne over Lawrence
in a dynasty draft? I would. Yes.
Really?
Because you need running backs. Running backs, you get quarterbacks. There's gonna be a bunch of quarterbacks that might pop up this year, right? Like in terms of the guys coming out of the draft. Trevor Lawrence is not gonna be the only one, right? Most in a fantasy football, from a fantasy football perspective, your best bet is to take the running back, right? Because there's not a lot of them. I mean, not a lot of good volume ones. Whatever team he goes to is going to be a contender, Etienne, right? Because he's probably going to end up in the late first round. And whatever team gets him, man, is going to utilize him. If he goes to Pittsburgh, look out, man. They're going to run that ball. They have a good O-line. They have a good, solid O-line that they can probably improve. They had a lot of injuries on it, but they'll get better. He'll be a gadget guy. He literally reminds me of Alvin Kamara. I watch him play. Even the way he styles himself looks like Alvin Kamara. The way he gets out of the backfield looks like Kamara, man. I think if you're basically getting Kamara, another version of Kamara, like he's great in fantasy, right? I would take him for sure.
So are you prepared to move, in that case, Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley if it lands you Travis Etienne?
No, I would not. I wouldn't move them because these guys are known guys. I would never move a solid known guy for an unknown. Like he's not gonna be a for sure thing. No one's a for sure thing, right? But I wouldn't move him for an unknown. No,
so what are you paying? Like what are you paying for Etienne then? Like if you don't have that first or second overall pick and you're not going to get your hands on Etienne without making a trade, like are you moving future assets? Are you giving up your position in the draft plus more, or are you giving up? Like, what's your value on Etienne right now in a trade?
Well, it depends on your team. If you're in need of running back, give up a lot. I would say give up a good amount. I mean, I would give up I would give up my first, obviously, and maybe like a third or fourth. Depending on your position. You're in the late first round. I wouldn't even I don't think you'll have to trade a lot, right? But you're mid first round of your draft. I would say give up your first, third, maybe a couple, maybe a receiver or two, because you can get good value receiver like in a bunch of other places. Later guys, sleeper guys, they're easier to find. Quarterbacks are plentiful, right? You can get a good quarterback. There's 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. You can only start one, right? You can find a bunch of them. Running backs are hard to find. They're good. The great running backs are so valuable. The teams that win fantasy football leagues have strong backs. If you have an opportunity to get your hands on him and you're willing to go the extra mile to give up a bit, go get him. Because I think he's that legit.
All right, Aavik. Well, you know what? Let's hit you with one last question. 2021 season coming up. What's the Giants' final record going to be after 16 games?
Oh man, I mean, depending on the schedule. Actually, we don't have that hard of a schedule. If everybody's healthy, and I hope they make the moves that I hope they do, I would say we go, and also because our division is garbage. Cowboys are down, Eagles are down, Redskins don't have a quarterback. I think we go 9-7. I'll be optimistic and say we go 9-7. We went 6-10 this year. If we had Saquon Barkley, I think that we could have won a couple of those games. We could have beaten Dallas, we could have beaten Philly, possibly could have even beaten the Rams. right?
Mm-hmm.
He's one big play away from a touchdown, right? So we all lost those things. We all lost those games by 3 or less points, right? So I think we could go 9-7. I think that'll be like that's like the average around where I think we'll be next year
Yeah.
in playoff.
Yeah.
We'll win the division. I think
Yeah.
would think we're winning the division next year.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Well, thank you, Aavik, for coming on the show. We appreciate having you. If you don't already, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dynasty Kings Pods. We
Definitely
always
do
love
that
a
right
new
now.
we always love a new follower. Always love to engage with the crowd, especially because apparently recently I've been spitting out some trash takes. So it is what it is. But Aavik, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you
Yes, man.
having me, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on so much. I'm definitely more than glad to be on again next time. If you guys ever want me back.